We say we want to listen to diverse views as long as they agree with our own. And we say we want to live our values as long as it doesn't cause us any discomfort, right? As long as it's the other guy who's uncomfortable. Well, I'm happy to say, and the only reason I wanted to be here today is I think this will be one of the rare discussions in Washington, and I say that with rather more years of broadcasting than I care to admit, in which I think we really will be living in the world of our values, deeply felt and meant to be lived, and also will be listening respectfully to views which are different, which are diverse, in which we will be challenged.
I think that a Christian approach to immigration reform must show a healthy respect for national sovereignty and the rule of law. The rule of law. The rule of law embodies the notion that people should be governed by predictable, enforceable rules and regulations. Illegal aliens, that's the official term for a person that's in the country without documents. They're not immigrants, they're illegal aliens, are intruders who have entered our country without our consent. And by doing so, they show a disrespect for the country, for its constitution, and its religious understanding of itself. It's ungodly and disrespectful to break into another person's home and then make demands of the host. Christians should show love and compassion for all human beings, but they also should deal with justice and prudence and adherence to order, and they also should protect those that are most vulnerable among themselves. The majority of the new immigrants are from Mexico and Central America. They tend to be low skilled and low educated, and as a consequence, they compete with high school dropouts and high school educated Americans. The group most adversely impacted are black males and legal Hispanics. I think that immigration policy should favor professionals in terms of reform, professionals and highly skilled persons. Those are the ones that we should be recruiting. We need to step up our enforcement of existing laws and regulations. That goes back to the rule of law.
By its very nature, the opportunity for migration attracts the most adventurous and enterprising members of society. Those who pull up their stakes and bet the bank on life in a foreign country show an uncommon courage and initiative. They're qualities which often make them extraordinarily successful in their adopted homelands. If immigrants are generally energized by hope, their presence in relatively large numbers frequently evokes concern and even fear among some Americans. There's a surprisingly common assumption that the United States has a fixed number of jobs that are there to be quote-unquote taken, either by natives or by immigrants. In this view, closing our doors to future immigrants and removing some of those who are already here would open up new job opportunities and raise wages for native-born Americans. Throughout our nation's history, immigrants and immigration has been closely correlated with economic growth. From a Christian perspective, we know that people are assets, not liabilities. Every human being possesses unique abilities and gifts from God that are meant to bless the entire community. Our ability to attract and retain the best and the brightest, as well as those willing to perform tasks for which most Americans are overqualified and reluctant to perform, provides much of the competitive advantage that we enjoy in today's global economy. In 2007, President Bush commissioned a study by the White House Council and Economic Advisors on the economic impact of immigration, which concluded three things. One, on average, U.S. natives benefit from immigration. Immigrants tend to complement, not substitute for, natives, raising natives' productivity and income. Two, careful studies of the long-run fiscal effects of immigration conclude that it is likely to have a modest positive influence. And three, skilled immigrants are likely to be especially beneficial to natives. In addition to the contributions to innovation, they have a significant positive fiscal impact.
The question before us isn't how immigration affects the economy. The real question is how immigration affects the economic situation of average and less privileged Americans. If national borders mean nothing anymore, then the middle class is going to be killed off. The poor underclass will grow in size and wealth disparity, and only elites will make enough money for a decent life. That's not the model that made America great. nor does it track with biblical principles that have served America so well. The National Academy of Sciences has a model for determining immigration's economic impact. It shows immigration cost American workers $375 billion in lowered wages, or about 3% of GDP. Immigrants contribute a net of $33 billion in a $14 trillion economy, or less than 0.25% of GDP. Unemployment among American-born young adult high school graduates was 20% in the second quarter this year. That's over twice the general unemployment rate. By the broader measure, counting unemployed, underemployed, and discouraged native-born workers, it's over 32%. Younger black Americans with a diploma face unemployment of 29%. By the broader definition of unemployment, 40%. We're going through the worst economy since the Great Depression. 30 million less educated Americans and legal immigrants don't have a job. Yet 7 to 8 million illegal aliens do hold American jobs. Given immigrant skill and education gap, given the artificial economic demand and actual taxpayer subsidy of both foreign workers and their employers, is it moral to dump American workers for cheaper foreign workers? Is it moral to break the law, hire illegal aliens, and gain unfair advantage over your law-abiding competitors? What's the moral difference between deliberately depressing wages or displacing American workers and loan sharking or tax evasion? It's immoral for employers of foreign workers to be able to privatize the benefits to themselves and to socialize the costs. That's not free enterprise, and such conduct falls outside the bounds of morality, common good, and civil society.
I believe in the rule of law, and it was defined tonight as predictable and enforceable laws. Well, our immigration laws have not been enforced or predictable. They've been exactly the opposite. For at least 24 years since the amnesty under Reagan, we've had two signs up at the border. One says, "Do not trespass," and the other says, "Help wanted." And once they get into this country, we have not enforced the law. It's immoral to break the law, but it's also immoral not to enforce the law. It seems to me that what we need to do, the fair thing to do, is to first of all secure our border. I agree, if you're going to be a sovereign country, you need to have a secure border. A secure border is not a closed border, but it's a border that is secured. It's a border that you have control of. And people say to me, well, the federal government can't do that. Please. The federal government can enforce the laws the federal government chooses to enforce. So in the realm of reality, what do we do with those who are here? We separate the bad actors from the good ones, and we give the good ones an opportunity to earn their way to full legal status. Then I would give every American who's already here and a citizen a new Social Security card, same number, but it would be tamper-proof, biometric. And I would pass a law that says any employer who employs anyone to work who doesn't have either one of these tamper-proof guest worker cards or a tamper-proof Social Security card will be sent to jail for a year. This would take care of the predators who prey upon undocumented workers. We have the capacity to do this, we have the will to do it, and I personally think that this kind of comprehensive immigration reform, the American people are ready to accept. The American people are way ahead of their elected representatives on this issue.
I'm going to start with the core disagreement that we've heard play out here, and that is the whole question of how we treat the least of these, as the scripture says. And the core disagreement that you've heard enunciated here is the question of whether an expansive immigration policy suppresses wages for our most vulnerable workers or not.
You have to get away from this static idea there's a certain number of jobs and either you're getting the job or I'm getting the job. The number of jobs depends on how many people are here and how much creativity and how much economic activity each of us is doing. You don't see massive displacement, what you see is complementary.